Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. We're going to paint a wintry scene here. Wintry scene here with 3 does in it. And I have it sketched up here on this board. I went over and got this photo over here from Adobe Stock Photo. And I think it'll make a beautiful painting here. I'm going to put down some snow, some of the tall grasses that we have out here in Nebraska, Colorado, up into Wyoming. And I'm going to put a mountain back up over here, some foothills here, some stuff. And I'm going to do it very casually. I'm going to be using my my paint scraper today. I've showed some of you this with the seascapes and stuff. A little bit of difference. I'm going to have a very casual expression of the winter scene, and then I'm going to focus in on the does, on they're a little bit closer, bring them up in a little bit more in detail. So the board I'm using here today is a 20 by 15, so it's 15 inches high, 20 inches wide. If you want to use like a 14 by 18, which is a standard size canvas or canvas board, you can use that. I always use the board whenever I want to do any detail. I'm going to use a little bit of detail here on the deer so I don't have to fight that weave. If you get like a portrait weave or a finer weave canvas, then you can paint that weave pretty easy. But a lot of people ask me, why don't I paint on canvas as much? And it's because I like to do a lot of detail. But in portraits and stuff, sometimes I like that canvas weave because it'll distort the line and give you a little softer expression of your edges. So you can do both, okay? So then what I did was I gave it a coat of the Heritage Canvas Prep Medium, sanded it with 180 grit sandpaper, and sketched on my designs here. And for those of you that are in our memberships and stuff, I'll make sure I put in all those reference photos and stuff that you can use to help your sketching and stuff as well. My palette colors that I have out here, this is my standard YouTube palette. I did add out a medium white and a light gray. These are mixed colors. This is black and white with a little bit of yellow, and this is black and white with a little bit of yellow here for something like this. Just to keep it slightly warm, but it's more black and white, and here it has more yellow. But I put these out just for simplicity. This is my standard other palette that I have out here: Hansa Diarylide Yellow, Oxide, Naphthol Red Light, Burnt Sienna, Pine Green, Phthalo Blue, Quinacridone Violet, Red Violet, and White. This is the Diarylide Open Medium that I like to use, especially if I'm going to do some palette knife techniques today. And this is the thinner extender medium, which slows down the drying time a little bit. Now, I put a list of everything like I do with all my videos. Over in the video description is links for all the palette colors I use here. There's a list there for you. And then there's also links over to some of the supplies that I use, and you can get, and I show where you can get them over on Amazon and stuff, okay? So let's get into this, okay? So what I want to do is I'm going to put the sky back in here. I'm going to start back here with the sky, and the winter sky has a lot of the blue greens and stuff into it, but I want to put in some nice, real cool violets up here as well. Simple, very, very simple. I'm going to use just water. I take some water out here. This is my larger but it's a soft brush, a Fusion. I'm going to be using some Fusion filberts and some Fusion flats and my palette knife and all kinds of fun stuff. But let's take just a touch of the Phthalo Blue here and some white. We'll make a real light. Those of you that paint a lot of landscapes, I always start out right around a value 8 or so, real light here. And that just puts on a nice sky. Now, if you're painting for a lot of what we call atmosphere and depth, I'll pull this right on down through the beginning part of my landscape here as well, because that just, I'll let some of that stay through, but that gives you atmospheric colors and it helps you push everything further back. Now, that's a beautiful color. I want a little bit of violet over here in some of this, maybe a touch darker. As you get up in the winter skies, and as you get up normally, as you get up a little higher, the sky does get a little bit more violet and gets a little bit darker. Normally, it doesn't get too much darker than like a value 5 or 6, but I'll put some of this just mottled up back through here. And just like that. So, you know, you see, and it's going to make a nice winter sky. You'll see a little bit of the violet, just that violet. See this little pretty little violet. Let's just make a bit of that come out there as well. See, just a little streaks of that and stuff. And it just makes a real pretty sky, a quick and easy pretty sky. Now, I'm going to rinse that out because the last couple of videos I've always forgot to rinse that out. You know, these colors, those of you, if you forget to, then you can see this is an old brush. But if you forget to rinse that out of your brush and it dries in your brush really hard, their alcohol, especially on the Heritage. Now, not all acrylics, because all acrylics are different, but alcohol is the thing that will break the binder of the acrylic. And so you don't ruin your brush. You can get your brush back. But ever since COVID, and I've said this in other videos and stuff, I've been using hand sanitizer. And because hand sanitizer, you know, good hand sanitizer has 50-60% isopropyl alcohol, which is really the best to break the binder that's in the acrylic paint. And so I use hand sanitizer. I squirt some into my hand, and I'll clean my brush out, especially if I forgot paint in it and it's hard. You can get that out of there really easy just with hand sanitizer, okay? All right, so now let's go back. Let's take like an older 3/4 inch brush here. We'll take some of this colors here. We're going to make some snowy kind of mountains a little bit further back, and the mountains, when they go further back, are going to be really kind of blue-violet, and I gray that down, though. I gray that down, and I like to gray it down with a bit of the burnt sienna there, and we'll lighten this back up, maybe a bit of the gray in here as well. And we'll start here, just the idea of some back mountains. We'll pull here, and see, this is what I like just a tiny bit of that mottled of that burnt sienna came out. So as you put this on here, and we'll poke and we'll grab here, you'll get a few other little colors coming off, and that's just going to make it look neat here. So, you know, I let that happen. And we want this little bit that you see here is what that little edge right there, we call that a fractured edge. And I like, especially when I paint stuff that's receding into the back, to have some of those little fractured edges because it pushes them back there. Now, let's put some snow on it. So we want a lighter color. Now, I'm going to bring light in this way. So this side of the dough, just like you see over there in the reference, that side of the dough over there will be light, and this front side of her and stuff will be light, which means I'm going to have snow onto these mountains and stuff here, basically lighting up quite a bit from the left side here. So I think I said I brought it in from the right. It's coming in from the left here. So we want a little bit lighter back here on this side, and then we'll let the shadow come in on the other side. And this is where, you know, I like to do this with big brushes. This can also be done really nice with like your little palette knife. Just slide it along there and, you know, push down a little bit and slide it, and you'll get some nice little looks right there to that back mountains here. I used to always paint mountains and stuff with a palette knife, and then I stopped and started using the brushes. But see, a little bit of that light, go this way over here, and you get into the violets, you'll get a better shadow color for your mountains. And I could have this mountain here just a touch darker, a little bit more violet in here. So I think I'll do that just a bit. Maybe just push this out, maybe, who knows what that is, a further back one or whatever. I don't, you know, if the people are back there looking at your mountains for too long, you've kind of made a mistake on your deer. So we want them to be up here by the deer. But I just want to push in a shadow and a light, give a little back interest there. And I'll just pull a little bit here, back like that, and I'll let this dry down now for a bit, and we'll see what we have. And if we need to, might want to put a little bit more of a peak of a light there or so. And I'm going to continue on here and with a violet, and sometimes I'll switch over to the red violet here and get this purpley color here, gray it out a bit here, and we're just going to pull that. Now that's a little dark, but that's okay. I'll change that in just a minute here. And this is a great way to do it. Rather than And especially if you're going to be a knife painter or you want to be a really casual, impressionistic painter, you know, you'll get the value close. You don't have to hit it perfect. And then you'll come back in and say, okay, that's a little dark. So I'm just going to adjust my color here a bit. And I'm going to run it right through that, which will adjust the value here as well. Maybe leave a few little edges there. Edges, maybe it's, you know, a nice little, you know, some tree line or something back there, you know. And add a little bit of gray right back up over here to this. And I love those broken edges and stuff because, see, that can look like little trees or little snow and all that kind of stuff. I want to make that little bit of dark coming right up here in front of this. That will help push that one further back right there. And as mountains and stuff come forward, they get darker. So we'll start to get a little darker, but let's just pull a bit more of that right there. Okay, now, so we'll go, let's go a touch more grayer, a little bit of open medium. Sometimes I like the open medium sometimes because it's thicker and it's gonna, but it's gonna cause my knife here to just slide along this edge here like that. So I'll put that in, maybe down just a bit here, around like that. Now we want to add some snow and stuff to it. So let's just pull an edge here of some snow. And see, the darker comes forward. This is a little different than you've seen me do on some other things. And I used to do this a lot. And it's just really fun. See, I can just push that in. And see, by adjusting your values as you're going, you're getting this beautiful look that is, you know, very different. It's you know, rather than always mix, you know, I'm a tone painter. You know that. You follow me, you know I'm a tone painter. And I like to mix the tone, especially when I'm doing all the prima. But sometimes painting like this, and I'm just going to go right through my little deer there. I drew her once. I can draw her again. And we'll just pull that together there. So we got a little bit of that dark. Let's put just a touch more of that burnt sienna and blue, kind of grayish dark, right over here along that line. And we'll leave some of this, we'll add actually some of this lighter snow right back in here, just a bit of it. Break up some of that there. Little, see, it just looks like little, maybe little openings in some trees and stuff, and you can fracture the edge a little bit more. In other words, if I wanted to fracture this edge more, I can pull it up like this and fracture it back, well, not up into the sky. We don't want to do that. Now, if you do something like that, see, I get to show you how to take that. Just take a little water right in your paper towel there and pull right through that, and it'll just come right off for you. But it's a neat way you could just fracture those edges, see? And I can just use that little bit of water to help me fracture those edges as well, and just create this really impressionistic edge all along there. And it's going to do a lot of things. Like I could create a real snow field look to it, just right like that. Let's pull this down again. Little thicker paint, right on the edge of the knife. Little bit of pressure, not a tremendous amount of pressure. Little bit of pressure. And we'll put up a little bit of snow right there, right on the edge of that hill there. Maybe a bit of snow further down here. Just some ideas of it right in there. You get just the ideas of that snow. So, see, and that's what makes it really pretty. That's where, you know, when you become an impressionist and getting those colors crossing and some of those edges, that took me a long time because I was and I still am, I'm a left brain painter, and I do try to do everything perfect. So I found by actually doing a little bit of the mixing or a little bit of the painting on the surface, letting your knife run through those colors, get your colors close but not perfect, and then use the knife running through there, you get just such a pretty little difference to it. I'm going to take just a touch lighter, back here as this just drying down and push just a little bit more on that back hill back there. I think that would be kind of neat on that back mountain there. There we go. Just a bit of that. I think I could have a little bit more over there, but I think, well, let's do it. So we'll put another little angle of that right there. See, and I use just a little bit of paint and a very light little pressure, just kind of drag and let just some of it just skip in there. That's called the fracturing of it. And see, it looks just like that's just the distance of it. This is a little smooth. This is a little better, but the combination there is going to work. I could just fracture that up a little bit there too. Just a bit. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Don't play with that anymore. That's pretty good. Let's come in now. I'm going to make a snow, but I'm going to have all of these beautiful, you know, the tall grass prairies, which are going to be kind of your yellows, burnt siennas, and stuff like there. So I want to cool and I want to warm. And I have to decide, do I want any clouds up there? Let's just, while we have that, we'll take a bit of these blues and grays that we have here with some of our lights. Let's add some open medium. This is going to cause my knife to skip a bit. And we'll give the idea here of some clouds. Now, I can come back with just a touch more white right on the left side because that is the sunny, that's where the sunshine is. So I can push a bit more light right on the left side. Now, I can use my hand. You see me use my hand a lot. Sometimes I'll just take a big brush, some of the brush that I've been using, and just a little bit of water, or you could use a little bit of extender, and just blur that slightly like this through. You can push up and blur some of those edges there, and that'll push a little bit of cloud. You could have some more. You can, as we get into the painting here, we could put up another one like right up over here. As we get into the painting, I do like fractured ones too. But as we get further on into the painting, we could put some of the yellows from our painting up into here, into the clouds too, which would make them kind of pretty. You want to take anything back, just use that paper towel with that little bit of water. It'll take it back just a bit. That looks neat. And the thing is, don't make them all the same. So that's pretty good. Just a little bit of paint, flat on your knife, dragging it back and forth like that. Let what happens happen, and it'll be fine. If you go in there and try to copy what I did or anything like that, it'll become stiff and you won't like it. You'll compare yours to mine and vice versa. And, you know, that's not a good thing to do. When you're an impressionist painter, you let what happens happen. And, you know, it'll look a lot better that way. It really will. Okay. So we got that back there. Let's go back to this, and I'm going to not even clean my brush out of that blue. I'm going to grab some of my yellow. Let's grab some medium white. This is not quite as powerful as the white. We'll grab a bit of our blues and stuff, model that together here, and we're going to start this warm right up here along that edge. Now see how I just kind of turn my brush, let that fracture just a bit here. I want that edge to fracture right up against the edge of that mountain and stuff there. And we'll maybe grab a bit more light here, maybe a bit white and some medium white, and we'll hit just that edge here. I want to, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That kind of skip. That makes the, and I do this by holding the brush very flat. You could do it with your knife as well. But you hold that brush very flat like that, see? And it gets that skip. And we'll come down. Let's come right around our little doe there. Right down into this area that I'm going to have some snow. We'll start pulling some of this down. Now we should probably gray this. And a good way to gray this, and even get back towards that mountain, is a bit of that violet. Violets are complements to the, maybe even a little bit more on the red, on the Quinacridone Violet side. Violets are complements to the yellows, and so they gray and they'll cool a bit. That's just a bit too dark, just a little bit. Let's get a little bit more medium white into that. That's better. Pull some of that in there. And back and forth. When I do impressionism like this and painting like this, I'm going to go back and forth, put some of those violets on, grab some of these yellows, put some of those on, so we get some of those colors back there. Now, I'm going to blur that edge, and a good way too is with your knife, pull down just a bit to take that. I got a little bit of texture right there. And so I'm going to pull down and blur that edge right along there. I still want to see that edge, but see what it does is it'll make it look like little valleys and stuff like that coming right up. And so I use my knife flat and I can blend it slightly. And if I want this dough to really come forward, I make sure I don't have too much texture and all that kind of stuff competing right around her there. So I'll just pull that in. Let's just take a bit of that violet white right in there. Pull that up into that mountain just a bit and back down. And it'll blur that edge. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's take some of these yellows. Push some of those in here. And when I really paint fast, this is where I want to get that on there very quickly. This is where I go grab, and let's just grab a bit of the violet. My big paint scraper here. Now I'm going to push. I want to get some of this on here, and I'm going to push in, a lot. There's going to be a lot of colors. This is just a first coating of this, but this will help me just get some of the color, because I'm going to put snow all around through here. This is all going to change, but this is what I like, to get some of that variation of some of this tone through here. Now see, I picked up a little bit of blue right in there too. And if that little spot there, I'll just soften that out. But you get some of these colors going through here, even some of those grays, some of these other colors, and it's just going to look great. So, and let's even grab some of this gray right with this medium white and a bit of yellow. When I paint like this, I use a lot of paint here. But see, you get all of these beautiful colors right up here into the front. You can tend to knock out your deer in your drawing a bit, but see, we'll just get some of this in here. And sometimes, believe it or not, I use my other hand because I want this to be casual. And you know, if you watch like some of the seascapes and stuff, I'll change my hands back and forth. I'm right-handed, but I'll paint some of this with my left hand, so it's a little bit different. And all of it works. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Let's put a little bit of that violet into this. A little bit more of that medium white. We'll have to get out a few more colors here and there. We'll just drop some of that in. Let's just pull some of that right along there, because we're going to put snow all up in through here and stuff. But see, it gets this nice modelly look through here. As a matter of fact, if you want, we can you can start some of the snow now, just the idea of it. Let's take a little gray and white, and I'm going to have to get out more colors, I can see. But let's just come right in here. I want a little snow field right in there. So I'll just pull across a bit. This sets up your initial, and it's what's really nice about this is when you're pulling like this is it sets it in so casual here. You get all this crossing of the colors and stuff here, so casual. And you can do some fine tuning of it with your smaller knife here as well, here. And just put it in, and it'll be a little, I'm going to say, not uncontrolled, but you don't want it perfect. You want to have some of these like little spots of color of this, because that will create little spots of snow as we get going here. And as we get going here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put out some more white here, quite a bit more white, because we got a lot of snow. And let's I think I put, yes, here it is, my medium white as well. But we want some of these little sparks of snow. They'll be like little, light hitting little bits of snow and stuff. And we'll add all of that in here, along with adding some of the cool colors and stuff. But all of that will start to look like banks of snow when we get it going here. We've got a ways here. But you could use this small knife too. Add a bit of that open medium, because it will just smear out really nice for you. And you could also, and I'm a big advocate, like I'll even take some extender. What I want is a various amounts of textures and looks and stuff in here, because we're going to turn this all into brush and stuff like that. So I want some of these other colors up in here. So use your knife as well. Your brush as well, like this, and pull some of this in. Don't be perfect with it. And we'll just kind of, those of you that are beginners might want to put this all in and then put your deer in afterwards here. But we'll push some of this color around here, and we've got a lot of brush, a lot of shadows and brush and grasses to paint. But this will get us blocked in with some of this color here, and it'll give us our look, what we're looking for. We'll be able to get a little closer with our look here. So I'll block this in. Put a little bit more yellows maybe up here. As you come forward, some of your yellows and some of those pretty colors will get a little brighter. So you might want some of those right up in here. And this is what I do. This is how I would do it. Let's get a little burnt sienna in some of that. We'll put some of that right up in here. This is all going to be snow and bushes and stuff. I promise it'll look a lot better. This was the hardest thing for me to do when I was, what started out, is to get this casual and just let this happen, because I wanted to paint everything so perfect. Oh no, it's the casual underpainting that's going to make the rest of it look so wonderful. So we have to get casual. Let's put a bit of snow up here. We'll have some snow. Lots of stuff going on there. We'll just grab some of this. This is where I really like to get that going. Especially where that edge is wet. Just put a bit of that around. Some of that snow. So we're going to have some bushes and everything. Of course, you have the final photo, you know what it looks like. I'm building it, so I'm not, I don't have anything to really look at right now. I'm just my idea. I've painted this kind of stuff before. I should have brought out my the big elk painting I just finished of Jackson, Wyoming, at the elk reserve. Should have put that one up for you to see. That one came out really neat. Okay, so let's just add maybe a bit of snow right in through there. Then we'll add more, we'll do more, but we could have just maybe a touch of a line or so of some of this snow back here. Just an idea of it. Maybe, if you want to create like a little hill, pull light to one side here like that. And, play back and forth with this. Get some of those yellows in there. There. It'll make, like snow covered and the prairie grass and stuff like that. Okay, let's switch over, and so we know how far we can take some of this, and we'll work on some of the dough, or the 3 doughs that we have here. And again, I got my reference photo over there, and I'm going to paint these. I'm not going to paint them super accurate. I'm going to do like I do with figures, like you see me do figures in some of the landscapes with the rivers and the fishermen and stuff like that. What you do when you break a figure is you break it down into a simplistic terms first of the light and the dark. And I like to start out with some of the dark. So I look over to her, and she's got a real dark nose up there, but I don't really want to go I don't want to go too much there yet because I'll go to a smaller brush. This is my number 6 Fusion Filbert. I like to paint some of these small things with the filbert, but there's going to be some gray up here. And a beautiful gray is the burnt sienna and blue and a little bit of white. And we're right up here about a value 5 or so. And so we can go darker. And I'm just going to casually come in here and do a little bit of, and I'm going to use my rest sometimes on this too, and come through and find some of the shadow. She'll have a lower shadow here on her jaw, stuff here, and I'm going to be very casual with this. Sometimes I'll thin this with just a little bit of extender so the color will stay wet, but more than that, I like the color to slide a bit because when I'm painting like this and painting a figure, I like to draw at the same time as I'm kind of painting in. So I'll draw slightly the shapes and stuff, and sometimes I don't like it to be quite that perfect there. So I'll take that off just a bit. We'll add quite a bit of detail to her here, but let's just get in some color here first, where we see some of the shadows, the darker parts of her here, like onto her knees, some of her legs here. We'll push some of that back. There'll be a nice shadowing, turning stroke right down here by her neck. But you can see I'm very casual with this. Maybe lighten up some of that pressure here. And let's pull some of this down. We'll lighten up onto her face in just a minute. You know, it looks kind of strange, but this is a great way to do it. Break it into its light and its darks. And just do this. Sometimes, let's just go over to a little more burnt sienna, maybe a touch of yellow. And this is, we'll thin this out so it's not super opaque. And we'll use this to come up out of this area here. This is just a tone. And I look for it as a tone. It's not going to be all of her. It's just a tone. And when the nice thing about, artists and painting and stuff, and I could say what differentiates a master from, just a good painter is the amount of tones that they use. And, taking that extra few minutes to get those extra colors in there. So, and here you see all this modeling. Yeah, a lot of that's going to paint out, but some of this modeling that we have on her is going to be really pretty. Like I might want to push just a bit of that burnt sienna tone, which will come up into her body. Right up there, there'll be a little touch of it right up, and you can see it on the reference, right up on the top of her head, right up there. Anyway, you see it right up over there. And, sometimes, when you're painting figures and stuff like that, you express colors a little more than what you actually see. So there's that particular tone. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to drop down over here. I'm going to add some light, maybe a light gray here, medium white, which is a real quick color, medium white, a little bit of my burnt sienna and yellow, and some of my bluish gray kind of colors here. And let's drop in some of the light tone. That's going to come right down here. This isn't all of it, but we'll see some of the light tone. We haven't got to those real pretty oranges yet. We're setting up some foundation of gray or undertones. And so we'll just kind of block in just a bit of that. Maybe some of that right in here. So you see it kind of mixes with some of those other tones, setting up. And you can see her face gets real modeled with that tone. What you try to do is to capture that modeling pretty quickly. And so you can, if you use, and it's almost like thinking the light and dark here and working some of the middle tones and stuff like that. It works very well here. And let's just thin that and put some of that out here. We'll add the other tones that'll make it real pretty, but this is kind of, you've seen me so many times in many things. I like to do like a common undertone of stuff. Now I know this is too light back here on this, but it's going to be a good common tones. So see now in her body, I just kind of got some of that tone going, which is going to be a nice, interesting, you know, bit here for her. That brush is just a little small for me. I'm going to flip up to a larger flat. The brush is just a little small. I like a slightly bigger brush. Now, let's go over to some burnt sienna, and the does, especially if you're painting like a whitetail or something like that. I really like the grays that come from burnt sienna and a little bit of green, but she is slightly more in that light. She's feeling just a bit more orange, so we might want to have some of that. Any of these colors in here will start to work. So let's just start pulling some of this down here. Try not to work too long before changing the color. Maybe a bit more green or a bit more of a yellow and red over here, a bit more orange, slightly different color here on her, and pull through some of this wet tone here, and you'll see more tone now coming on her, and she'll get a little closer, but let's go a little more burnt sienna here. Many different colors of the tones. A little burnt sienna pulled right down here. That makes her kind of pretty there. That's a pretty little color. We'll capture that one movement down her barrel of her here, down that way. So you see more tones. And again, just like anything, I start to pull it, you know, pull the marks, the color marks I'm using in the direction that I feel that she's moving here. So we'll just pull a nice directional mark there for the back of her neck here, down like that. We can soften that. If you add a little light over here, you'll get beautiful grays. See these beautiful grays into the greens and stuff? And again, those can be beautiful colors that start to lighten up right along that edge down her neck. And then she'll get a little warmer right up here towards the front, right in this area. So we'll warm that up a bit. But I'm going to do this a couple times here. As you can see, you can see some of that. And I want to, as you're painting her, you want to make areas simplistic. Don't sit there and paint it too much. It'll all become one color. Strike the color 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 at the max marks, and get out of there. You know, I'm going to go to a little smaller drawing brush, I like this, just like you see me do portraits and stuff. I'll go to a small synthetic filbert, little stiffer brush, and this allows you to put in smaller, stiffer marks here, which will give you more shape. And I can refine the tones, like I'll refine a little bit more of an orangier kind of tone, yellow orangey tone, right down in there. Push that in, and you know, and I see I'm getting closer. I'm not exact, but I'm getting closer to it. So we'll push a little bit more greenish light into that. But that's a pretty close tone. We can push some of that right in here underneath her. And maybe a bit more light. So, and you'll see I hold my brush very flat. I make a mark here. I like those tones to kind of cross here, but I don't like them to blend. I like them to kind of cross up and stuff, but I don't like them to blend. A little bit of light down here. Look for the lights and the darks in her. She has a light color right in here on the edge of that ear. And if you need her to pop off more, we can do it with the background. We can manipulate the background a bit more. A little bit darker. Let's grab a bit. Get that dark out here too. Burnt sienna and blue. Nice dark that you can use to start some of your drawing here. And you can see she has quite a bit of dark right in through there in those ears. Little marks, and this is where I need to rest, but I can do little marks to help with the shapes and stuff there. Keep it simplistic though. Nice blue, even I like blue, real dark colors. I like blue red, violet, and green. Those make real dark colors that you can use like right up here on the tip of her nose. Here, there's just a bit right back. She's going to have a light little chin there. And we can use this, just a point of this, into her eye here as well. Start her eye. And maybe a touch more right back here. This is where I like to draw. I use colors like this to help draw. I'm going to drag that around there just a bit more. And change that up. She has a light little chin, so I'm not cleaning my brush. I just pinch wipe the color out of my brush here. So you can see I take the blue out, and then I'll just tap into a little bit of the light that I can just touch a small mark in, maybe a bit more. And I might have to, I probably will, because I'm supposed to be just blocking this in right now. Probably have to, as I work some of this, I'll have to come back and restate some of these little areas on her. But that's what I do. I do this several times back and forth. I left just a small mark of light above her eye. We can add a touch more of that now. Here, she gets it above and below her eye here. But it stays kind of simplistic here. Here, we'll push a bit more of a lighter yellow. So, by repeating tones in through here, you're going to give her so much more character. Let's darken it down just a bit as we get up here towards the point of her head. Here, maybe drag a bit of that further back, soften that burnt sienna mark there just a bit. But you can see she starts to come forward. Now, as this dries, I see I could use an even lighter little mark right down her neck here, and might even leave a little texture there. So she'll start to come forward. But see, I like those little marks. And you can see how stiff that mark is. That's the difference between the fusion and the synthetic. The synthetic will leave a little more texture, a little stiffer mark right there. So you can see a second time building it. That's where I like that little undulation of color. And, so when I look at her and compare it over to there, she could have, my eye starts to refine. Once I get the light and dark, my eye starts to refine to what we call halftones. Halftones are areas of between the light and the shadow here that will give the subtle transition from the light and shadow. And so she'll have some gray halftones right down this side here, right down underneath this neckline right there. See? And she'll have one right, you can see, right there, right below her ear, just a little touch of a mark. You simplify it. Simplify your mark. Just don't worry about getting too specific. She's little. Just simplify your mark, and maybe she'll have a lighter, warmer, it helps set that jawline right in there. Right there like that. But all of this, and usually like these little does, they have they got a really defined like jawline. Pull a little bit of light right there out onto the jawline and stuff. But you can see we're getting a little closer to her. Nice, lighter, warmer yellow light right in here on the point of this front, kind of like her shoulder front there. A little bit of shadow underneath. Small brush like this, just making small marks. You can see it just does a lot. You just find those smaller marks, get a tone that's close, find the smaller mark. We'll have a shadow dipping in here. And then we'll have the light pulling down. You can see that nice light. Let's get that a little bit lighter. Just get it close. There. A little bit of that light there. And she'll have, and just paint the light and dark. And it doesn't really make a difference whether you do dark first or light first, but I tend to follow the Premier Coup, which is the dark first. And I'll build a little bit more of this leg idea here, and some of those grays, medium value half tones, which is right between the shadow and the light here. And I constantly brush mix, so my tones change just a bit. We'll hit this again, that area again, we'll need to. A little bit more gray, lighter gray, right there to bring that leg forward. She needs, so see, like it right in here, it's not near as light and dark yet. You see more light and dark contrast. That burnt sienna and green is such a pretty dark on these elk and deer. Such a pretty color. Works, and then you can make it even darker with a touch of blue. But see, and that would be a nice half tone right in here, a nice tone between the light and dark right in there. And you can even, don't get wild and crazy with your light, but you can skip a little bit of that light over just to soften some of that body right in there. And you can see, and you know, you work it again and you work it again, and she'll get softer and softer. I'm going to add a little open medium, not to keep it wet, but I like how it slides, so I want to slide. So this time as I'm coming through and this brush starts to get a little small, let me go to a bigger one. I'm going to start my tones again, but maybe slightly different. And this is what makes the painting so nice, is these tones start coming out a little different. Let's put a little green into that burnt sienna. See how it grays it down a bit. And lighter gray just to the back edge back here. Right back there. Right back there. So you can see she starts to, and she's starting to come forward here as we're getting some of these colors in here. But that green, burnt sienna, a little bit of blue, sometimes is just beautiful colors. And then sometimes just express the burnt sienna right out here. It's a little more expressed than what it is on her, but I kind of like that there. And that's what I'll do, is this back and forth with this. Smaller paintings, I'll just do it a couple times. Large, very large commission painting and stuff, I'll do this 5 or 6 times, working through the deer slowly, adding more and more tones, bringing her up. And you just get more depth to your painting when you start to do that. Let's thin this out a bit, maybe a touch of blue here. We'll drop that in. Don't know quite what happened there. But I'll look for the little shadows and everything, and a little too much blue. Sometimes I'll let that blue, though, you see me on Westerns, I'll let that blue come out, especially in the last of the painting. But see, I could use just the edge or the chisel of this brush and do a little bit of drawing here. A little bit of that modeling of that tone. And it works really well. Now, she needs to get a little lighter still. And that you'll find that's happened when you're working with the tones through the acrylics like this. You find it, you think you're light enough, and then you have to go back and do it again. And you think you're light enough, and you have to go back and do it again. That's a normal thing here. But you can see that coming back through there again is going to give us a little more spark to her. And we need to kind of straighten out those legs and all that stuff, but we'll do that another time. There. And let's go to our little brush here and redefine just a bit more of that light around her head It's even going to go lighter, but we'll put another little splash right there. Maybe a little mark. And maybe even a little more mark up above that eye there. Just a bit. And I clips the top of her eye, so I get to go put that back in, but I'll do that here. Clips the top of the eye. She starts to look a little angry. She's upset at those other ones. There we go. But this is what I'll do, and so I need that lighter underbelly right there, which is a little bit more blue-gray. So my eye, see, once I start to go through some of these tones, and then I start to refine the look of those tones again, yet again, as to what it is, kind of what I'm seeing. So I want a little bit more of the gray underneath here onto her belly. And it's good to put out several pictures of the does of this little whitetail, and to put several of them out so you can look at them and see, you know. But so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to work through her a couple times, and then I'll go over and I'll paint the other one, not to take up a whole bunch of your time to see that, so we have enough time to go in here and really work the snow and the grasses and stuff like that. This nice casual edge. So I'll go over, I'll show a few clips. I'm going to do the same thing with this, slowly refining those colors and stuff. And like I say, I'll show a few clips along the way. Then I'll come back and we'll paint some of the grasses and stuff. Okay? Alrighty. Let's paint some deer. Hi everyone, welcome back. Okay, so I got that worked out again. Worked this one, worked these. Or actually, I worked all of them. I worked this one about three or four times, and this one 2 to 3 times. I did into here. Changed my mind on some of the shadowing a couple times, but got it really, really close. You could use a little bit more of a. Matter of fact, we'll do that. You can barely see that over there, but there's a downward shadow stroke. And I try to catch some of that stuff because that's the anatomy, basically, of the deer. We want to catch some of that. So a downward, kind of a gray shadow stroke right here, which actually widens out her chest just a bit. And we'll make sure we get, yeah, see, that's better. It gets that in there. And that's what you do is, you know, I find some of these final colors and I just kind of just touch them in there. And, you know, really, like when you're painting her little face and stuff like that, it's just no blending in it whatsoever. Then I just took some dark. These are what we just call ground lines. It sets them down. It keeps them from floating up. And I just kind of, with a little bit of extender, put that on. And sometimes I'll wipe through the paper towel. Sometimes I'll just use the edge of my brush and I'll put those on, okay? And now what I'm going to do is just break up some of these colors back up through here again. And we'll take some yellows and some of our violets, just a little bit of blue into this violet here. And we'll make that cooler color. Add some open medium. You could use some extender, or I use both to thin it out. We'll lighten this up a bit. And see, this will be the cool colors and into some of these yellows. These will just be modeled other colors. Let's thin that out with some extender because we don't want to destroy too much. Now, and that's a little too powerful, a little bit. And you want to do that so you can correct it. You know, I never worry about these kinds of things. I used to always, and now I don't. I'm just going to take a little bit more of a grayed yellow and just pull right through that. And it'll make it look like you know what you're doing. We'll tap up a little closer to her there. And we want to put some of these grayed. Here's a little bit of blue with that right through there. Get some of those different colors back through there. You know, we could put snow back there too. Now, one of the things I did here was I took this violet, gray, and violet, the light gray and the violet, and painted around her. That helped her really come forward. You're the artist now. You can control what colors are going what and where to help bring your deer forward. So, you know, like right here, I'll put some of that violet right up against her. Get rid of that light little halo right there and pull some of that right there out. And that will help her stand a little bit proud. I could lighten up the front of this one a bit more here too, but if I take away some of that warmth and put some of this cool right back through there, it does a pretty good job. Get rid of some of these little light areas of the board still coming through. We call those holidays. Get rid of those. So she's got a couple, this one has a couple little spots. I might even take a small brush and do a little, we call this negative painting. Just a little bit out right around her. And that pops her forward. And I can even lighten up. She could even have a touch more light right up here on the front. You can see she's quite light actually, according to the light. And that would really help pop her up here a bit more right there. And maybe even on that other one here, you can see, especially right up there on the side of her face, here, down there, down on her neck, right down there. A little more touch of light and she'll come forward a bit more. And those are all final little like tweaks and stuff that I do as you're getting other colors on. Your eye and your perception of your design is going to change because color affects color, what we call simultaneous contrast. And so as I get more colors on, I might change my mind 2 or 3 or more times. Okay, so, and that's not a problem. Let's get some of this white and a little medium white. We'll push it right down here. We'll give the idea of some more of this snow right up here. And we'll let some of this... I put in just the beginning of some of this grasses. Now, sometimes with the grasses, I use my knife and I just pull really rough. So we'll take some yellows. Let's just start creating some of these colors, yellows and lights, maybe medium whites, and some of these yellows. You could have it slightly greenish, but you don't get too many greens into the winter time. So we'll be a little careful with that, but we can put a few, see, just a few marks like that, make it look like some grasses. And you can use, you know, I've showed you in all different kinds of things, brush, and, you know, when we paint the cows, and the westerns, and we use some of those different brushes, you know. You can even use the brushes that we use on animal portraits, those 2 hair and some air brushes to put some smaller grasses in. I usually don't do that back into the back. I usually just put a couple of tones on and just let them sit like that, just very rough like that. But a couple of lights, because that creates the little sparks that I like to have in there. And we'll create, there's a little bit of dark there as well. We'll take some of that out, back and forth. But this is what I like to do with this. And we'll model up some of this cool color. That violets, those look really good. Then we'll grab some of the warm color, and see, just light pressure, touch and hit and move with this knife. You're creating just kinds of colors and grasses through here. And there's a lot of Western painters, which I showed you, do a lot of vertical strokes and put those in. That's a whole technique that a lot like to use. And I like this more impressionistic application of it. But I've painted all of them. And see, this just gives you a little bit more of an impressionistic. Now, see, like right into here would be a good area that you can take just a little bit of that snow and drop some of that in and leave a bit of texture, but kind of drag it in and out of some of your bushes there. And that, you know, makes it kind of neat, that undulation of the edges. That's what gives you a lot of interest. Now you're as you come up over in here, this is where you might want to, and really good with snow. And I go out and I take all kinds of pictures of snow, but you're going to have blues and violets into that snow. And you know, there's quite a few snow paintings that I did, and I just uploaded one this last month with painting the river and the snow and doing the warms and cools in it. And that one, you can refer back to that one. But see, I'll put some cool over here. So, and I won't take out everything I did. I like this kind of rough. That makes the snow kind of undulate just a little bit there. And then I'll come back, especially on the light side. Let's take our knife here onto the light side and just hit some of the, you know, where some of the light snow might be there. And you can pull down, that gives that vertical edge right down there on the edge of that snow. You can pull down with your brush, or you can pull down with a knife, giving some different types of edges. And because it makes it look like the brush is coming in and out of the snow. Of course, we'll get more particular about it up here, but we can do a bit of that. And taking some of the knife, now I showed you on that other snow, adding some of the, and if you haven't seen that other video with the river and the snow, you know, making some thicker snow, using some of the thickened extender, or using the thickener to get some different techniques with the snow. Those are fun as well. I'll vary all different kinds of ways, but I do like using that thickener as well. But something like this can create, you can see, you want to get some of this undulation of colors and textures here as you're putting this on. That makes the snow look more, have highs and lows and more natural looking. We'll take a bit of the cool color here and just slide some of that in there. There, just push the knife flat and it'll slide, as you can see, and then we'll pick up some heavier snow here. Just slide that right across there like that. In and out. And so like right up in here, we can push in some more bushes and stuff like that if we want. We might want to have a little edge back here of some snow. Just a little edge like that. Just roll your knife, pick it up like this on the edge, and just roll your knife down flat and back up onto the chisel there to give that edge. Sometimes I'll push it to smear it out a bit. We can take some of that cooler blue, push that in there as well, and just give that idea of some of that snow and stuff over there. Let's push a bit more of that right over here. And again, I like to fracture it like that so I get, you know, edges of the colors. That's what I really like. Through here, we'll push that in there. See, that's a good color to help bring her forward. You're the artist. You can control the positions of things to really make them come forward. So, you know, I might want to push a bit of that and just slide that right up over here towards her, that cool color right there. And you can see it just creates, but we might also, it creates that nice in and out. We might also want just a bit of the light here and there. Because you got to remember, light is, so anytime you get a little bit of rise or a little bit of a mound of snow, you'll have some light hitting on that left side there. There we go. And this is what I like, just drag it across, get some of that fracturing there. Let's fracture some of this. So just drag it across and let some of that just come right in there like that. And let's get some of that cool blue and push that right in there. And when you do this, like in the Jackson, the elk that I did a lot of work of this small stuff up in the front. Makes it look like it's been all trampled down. You know, they've walked all over it and stuff. And so you do it a couple times back and forth, and you get a crossing of some of that, and it will start to make it look like it's all been trampled down. Let's put a little bit more here. Some violets here. A little more violet. You change, I like to always mix it so it's a little bit different. Here, a bit of blue. Let's get a little open medium into that. A little bit more blue here. And then we'll put some of this on, then we'll build some more bushes here. And so see, I like to slide that, and sometimes, and so it just gives this undulation. So if I slide back and forth, I'll come in and just slide some of the light here. And see, it makes the light and the dark, and it makes it look like it's been trampled down a little bit. But as you come over towards bushes and stuff, you want to hit some of the shadows, because that's what would be there, because the bushes would be casting shadows. So, you know, we'll push a little bit of this right around some of these bushes and stuff here. You can pull up and down to give some vertical motion that we're going to give to some of the bushes and stuff in there as well. And yeah, and build and build here. Let's take some of that right up here. And this is where, up in the front is where I'll get a little wild and crazy with some of this, because I want the ultimate contrast and stuff has got to come up here into the front. And we really want to build some of this stuff. So, and you know, switching back and forth, so that's the knife, but switching back and forth between the knife and your brush can give you some really nice looks. So we'll push some of this right in here. And this again is where you could use your brush, or I like to use the paper towel like this and just pull that down and get those wispy, create some of the verticals that would be the brush here. There's a bit of green that got in there. And I just let that, and if you have lots of time to do this, if you add some open medium to it, you have lots of time. Now, as you come up like over here, see, I'll override some of that snow, see? And then I'll just use this edge and just pull this down, this paper towel, to pull that down. You could also, you know, I've showed you these brushes before. This works really well if you don't want to use the paper towel. This is an old round bristle that I flattened out with a hammer, and that works really, really well to pull some of that down, to make some of those bushes and stuff. And let's just grab a few of this here, right in there, pull up and down a bit. And see, then I'll set some snow in there too. Now, it's safest to let it dry, but who wants to be safe? We'll push in, just tap and push. Don't slide too much. You'll get rid of too many of your verticals. But just tap and push some of that snow around here. And see, you can break some of your verticals and make it look like smaller grasses and stuff there. And we'll tap some here along the edge of this snow. This edge of snow, pull some of that down a bit. Leave some of that really broken like that, because that's that real interest. Don't try to work it too much. Just, put it on. And, I will come back, just like I say, several times, because I'll do this with snow as well. Pull it like this to give it that vertical edge sometimes. Like I could take the edge of this paper towel right in here and just pull right through that and give that, even some of that snow, a little look of the vertical, which will give you the look, of course, of the bushes and brush and stuff like that. But I wanted to make some larger brush in here as well. So I want to just pull across like that. This has some open medium in it, so I have some time. And we'll pull that down like that. See, that gives it just a real nice look there. Nice undulated edge. Let's push a bit of that more right in here. Just pull that down like that. A few of those little dark ones right in there. We could add just ever so lightly. Small, they get smaller back here, but just the idea. You can't just stop them all up front. So there has to be a few little marks of it in that color back there, so it doesn't look like you just cut it right in half. Okay, so let's just push a bit. I like the idea of the dark. And again, use your brush sometimes. It's a variation of the marks. So, just like we did with the back hills and stuff like that, we want a variation of the marks here in what we're doing. Now, let's get a bit lighter. Might have to get up just a bit more white. A bit lighter, too. So this creates, when I do this, see, this creates like little light tops to the brush. And I'll pull this around. And what I do when I do this is I do it a couple of times. So I'll come back and break that edge with some yellows here. Sometimes I'll do it with a little bit of violet. And we'll pull back down through that. And see, I go back and forth. So I've got some light there. I might want to have a bit more light on some of these. Maybe some heavier ones right up here. Especially in front, they're going to get bigger. So, I get real light, white and yellow, real light. Maybe a few of those right in there. Okay, and maybe just a few of those right in there. The grasses, and and I'll repeat, like I say, I'll repeat. Sometimes I'll just use the last little bit of the brush, or you can use this. This works really well. Pull down through there so you get that grass look. there's all kinds of ways. And in a big painting, I'll use them all. You know, I'll use all of them to get that variation. The thing is, you want to get a nice variation of your marks. So there's a little bit of that. Let's put in the yellow. Yellow like in the intermediate areas there. See? So you got some of those colors, a nice variation of those colors here. And then I'll just pull down to get some of those grasses, the look of those grasses and stuff there. See? And then we can come in, like I'll do here is I'll come in, use my smaller brush, and put in and tap through some of the marks for some heavier snow here. Taking out and imagining an undulating kind of a ground line here, in and out of some of this snow here, like that. And I go out this time of year when I walk my dogs, and of course we've got in the last 2 days we've gotten 14 inches of snow, so I have lots of inspiration out there on the prairie right now to walk through some of these grasses to see how it's done. Let's put a bit of this right in here. Just break right along that line. Just why you've seen me sometimes in rivers and everything, hold this brush real flat, just drag that along. You could use your knife, you know, and push some of that along if you want it a little softer, to drag some of that. But, you know, come back, and this is what really makes a painting nice, is you come back and add a few other little marks here in between. So you work the grasses, especially as you come forward, you work these grasses a few times here to get some of those different undulation looks and stuff through there. And this is a little bit straight of a line for me. I'll have to change that up. I'm going to put out a little bit more white here. But it's really kind of fun that you just kind of keep building and building and, you know, coming down and building some more. And I want to push, I'm going to thin this out just a bit, but we'll push some of this right back over here by her, right up in here. That looks pretty good. So I'll put the shadowy color down, burnt sienna, a little green, a little bit of yellow, then more into your yellows into the mid areas there, and then maybe a little lights up into the fronts, see, right to there. It gives you good grasses. Then you just kind of pull down through there and then reset. That looks kind of good, so I don't think I'll reset. But the if you want some snow, like right there is coming into a little shadow around her, I might put in some of my blue, violet-y kind of snow right in there, right up in and around her there, into some of those areas. She gets a little shadow. You know, you could add the cast shadows here. Light's coming this way, so there really should be a cast shadow, which any kind of a gray kind of color here would be the, and on the elk painting, I used some violet in it, which I really liked, because that's the shadow color we're using everywhere. So I put some violet, thin this out a bit, into, that's really too purpley. Let's go to maybe a bit of burnt sienna in that to help warm it up. Somewhere around there. Just push a little bit of that into that color. Actually, these colors would be the prettiest. Head there, bring your mountain forward. That would give you good harmony. So a little more blue, a little bit of burnt sienna. And I hit that white, so I get a little bit more blue and a little bit more burnt sienna here. And that would make a really nice cast shadow here. That's that mountain color coming forward right here. And so it would lean this way back just a bit. And I'll show you in just a second, but a lot of time when I do that, I put a few grasses up a little higher as well. There we go. And so I'll leave that shadow brush, that color in there, and then I'll just poke up a few grasses up above those lines here so that it's not, so it helps set that shadow in and around in there. So you get a few grasses go high. Sometimes I'll use, on a big painting, I'll use my liner brush kind of thing in there and do some of that. As you come forward, you can even make it a little brighter, a little bit of our other yellows in there. So we get a little Hansa and a little white. Grab some of those colors. You can have a little bit of that showing up in a few other areas. But yeah, that's kind of pretty. Get rid of a little bit of blue in my brush comes out like that. Just a touch. And so it doesn't always, if you feel like you're too vertical, you just touch across and then hit again, and it'll take away some of that vertical look, which works pretty nice. There we go. Just all kinds of neat grasses here. And it's up to you how much you build, and so some of these grasses I'll undulate a little higher and lower there and let the snow show through a little differently here. So I'll drag some, I'll pull some down here like that, and that's a little straight for me still right there. So what I do is I start painting back. I'll take a bit of my cooler color, bluish, light bluish color here, snow color, and I'll just start painting back some of it here so it's not quite so straight there. And maybe I'll add a little mound of lighter snow right in there. Let some of the yellows come out through there. When you get some of those yellows, you could, now see, I do like how the clouds dried down, so I don't think I'll touch them. But you could put some of those yellows up there into those clouds. Right here is a bit heavy, so we could just take a bit of it out. And this is what a good impressionist would do. We just take some of it out, and you don't worry about those edges too much because it's doing its job. We're making the prairie here. It's doing its job. Let's take just a bit of that back here. And see, you just want those colors through here. And then, of course, the darker, to really bring the foreground here even farther forward, we can even take some of that shadow color that we used in there, and we could drop that in to smaller marks. It's the law of disproportionate color in all things is as an area of a color, as a color gets lighter or darker and more intense, and so the area in which it occupies gets less. That's why you have shine dots, small areas of shine, because it gets less, the color so you get this real dark color that where you use that dark color is going to get less and less and less. More and more, just little touches of it up and through here, but more of it as you come up here. So I'll put that dark on, then I'll slide over that dark in a few areas with some of my yellows. Just push right over them. Get wild and crazy here. Have some fun with it. Push over. You can take the edge of a paper towel and just pull through. You could use a brush. I love the paper towel, but a lot of people like to use the brush too. Or, I can push up into here a bit just to break some of that. And I would do it to the left side of that little clump, the right side, because that's the shadow side. I can push up like that and create some more markings of it. But really good stuff here. Just go boom with some of that light. Really create some nice contrast now. Maybe, just grab some of that light and just drag it through here. This is where you get really brave. And see, that's the impressionism of it that's just going to make it so pretty, is that we'll drag a little bit of that through here. There, like that. Just kind of build that up a bit. And yeah, you can get even more brave with your bigger brush here. And grab some of that white. And just pull through like that. Set that front contrast there, just like that, see? Big, and this is where I would even grab a lot of paint and just hit the textures and let the textures go. And if you need it to slide more, get that open medium in it, get a little extender in it. Here we'll get some more lighter blue, violet, a little more blue. Here. That's pretty colors. Boom, right up through here. Just let some of that hit. Right like that. See, as I come forward, I get even more casual with it because that's what creates all of those shimmering little edges and stuff here. And I like that. So there's an upward stroke because that's a highlight, and a downward stroke like this would be the shadow because the light's coming from the left to right here. So we'll just put a little bit of light, a little bit of dark, and we'll let this all out here just be wild and crazy. A little bit of shadow here, there, like that. Let's put a bit more, get the last of our open medium going here with some of these yellows. And see, I'll just let some of that just work in. So sometimes I come right back through those edges, just add a little bit more of that other color there. So just take some of this and like right in through here. See, and you can just add it, and it looks like little grasses poking up through the snow. And it goes real fast. And that's the, and I used to, oh boy, I tell you, I can do it now, and I'm really comfortable with it, and I have a lot of fun with it. Now, you can do these with more vertical strokes. You can do it any way you want. That's going to become part of your look. But when I first started, man, I took off so many times and played with it so many times because I didn't have the confidence. And, you have a certain look. Well, it's this way. When you're painting casual, you have a certain look in mind. But you're painting casual, you can't get to that look. And if see, I can paint back and forth, guys. And so you can't get to that look when you're painting casual. So you start to stiffen up to make hit that impression in your mind, and then it becomes actually worse, in my opinion. And so what I've learned to do is just to let it go. Now see, look at that pretty little edge right down through there, see? And basically here's the technique. You just let it go. You're not going to be able to copy that. I'm not going to be able to paint that again. So what you got to do is just concentrate on what is the technique here. Is you put down that dark, you put down that medium, you put down that light, you pull through. Then you can hit light and shadow and work back and forth between those colors and refine them several times. And really pretty things is like do this. Come back, add a few little marks of the light, the little shimmers of light that go through. That's the little light areas of snow. That's really kind of pretty in there. And you can have some of that right out through here. Yeah, I don't know if I might pick up my dogs over here, just sleeping and barking in their sleep. But that's what you do. You just come back and put a few little sparks everywhere, you know. I like to do that. That just adds more to it. And so you can have more warms, you can have more cools, you can have whatever you like in there. It's just a heck of a lot of fun. Let's just put in a medium, kind of pull through there, stay out of our deer. Maybe a little bit back here. A little bit showing up, but as you get further back, they'll get these little colors will get a bit more narrow because you're getting your angle of your view is getting lower, so it'd be a little more narrow here, just like that. But it's very, very fun. It is really, really casual, and you know, and you could go back and I could go back and clean up their edges a little bit more and do that, but I kind of like the overall impressionism of it, and I'm going to call it for that, okay? So there you go. There's a great way to do an impressionistic landscape with some three little doe in there, and I tell you, in painting wise, and I've been painting a long time, I love to paint like this, and if you can, how do you get good at it? What I did, and it really does, and a lot of art teachers and universities and stuff do this. We do time paintings. In other words, you're going to give yourself 2 hours to paint this, and you have to have it done in 2 hours. So it keeps you moving, 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 moving. You don't slow down and play with it, trying to make that or trying to copy what I did or trying to copy your photo too closely. You just move, 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 move. And that's, the prettiest of all of this is right up in here where I just took off and just did it. That makes the most casual and the most beautiful in there and the powerful. And that's a certain amount of confidence that's going to come with more time and more practice. But you've got to get out of, and all of us do it, we get into this copy mode. You got to get away from that. And what is really good, what you should do is watch it all the way through, then turn me off. I hate to say that. Turn me off, or just turn down the volume so you can just watch what I do and just put the dark, put the real dark, burnt sienna and blue, put in the yellow, oxide, next band through, vary it a little bit. You can pull it down to start some of it, then use some of those yellows and whites, put up the top, pull down, then start your snow. Then go back and repeat some of those again a couple of times in those edges, and you get those real beautiful edges and stuff, okay? There you go. Thanks very much for joining me on this one. We have a lot more coming. More florals, we've got westerns, and all that kind of stuff. They're all back there, so I'm just lining them up and painting all weekend with them, okay? So you'll look at that. Those of you that are in the memberships, again, thank you so much for helping support this channel. We really, really appreciate your support. I'll put the final photo, I'll put my reference photos and stuff like that up there so you can have those to paint from. And again, if you have any kinds of questions or comments or anything, just put that down below. Any kind of comments that you want to share with everyone and stuff, just put it down below, okay? And I'll try to get those. I try to answer those all the time. If you notice, I try to go in and at least say thank you. But thank you guys for supporting the channel, watching our videos, and thank you for following or including us on your artistic journey. Just as different ways to do it, okay? All right, I'll see you guys on the next one.